Walter Jones joining us, Congressman, 3rd District, North Carolina, Republican. Congressman, good to have you, sir.
Well, John, I must tell you, I enjoyed your conversation with Jerry and your description of the movie Willard. I do remember that movie, and I think Jerry was too young to know much about the movie, and but your description of all the rats was just great.
That's right. All the rats, and they had the one king rat that he trained, and I think it was a little white rat. It wasn't even that big, yeah. And he named it Socrates, right? And the rats ended up turning on Willard, right? Because they turned on him. So it kind of reminds me of the Department of Justice right now. Listen,
I'll tell you the truth. It would fit many current situations. I'll give you that. So it is. But that I was sitting here in my den to get ready to go to office, and I was chuckling just like I was watching the movie.
Pretty funny. All right. So listen, a lot of journalists are going to Israel. A lot of my friends are going the next couple of days for the event of moving the embassy. And so there's a lot of U.S. people going to be in Israel, a lot of journalists. Meantime, the Israel Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, the other day outlines this big thing. He's got 100,000 documents, and the Iranians are testing nuclear bombs or making nuclear weapons. He had all this evidence. He goes on national TV. The timing seemed a little suspect to me. And, it almost feels like, okay, let's get the U.S. sucked in now to some other confrontation. What did you think of the speech? What do you think of the evidence? What do you make of the whole thing, Congressman?
John, I am a conservative. I do support Israel. But I will say this. I want to slow the process down and let the committees of jurisdiction in Washington take a look at the evidence that Netanyahu has presented. We seem to rush to judgment in this country more than I've ever seen in my adult life. And sometimes you have to rush to judgment. But I think we need to slow the process down, let the committees of jurisdiction work with the White House, and let's see what we can verify and what we cannot. The world, as you just said, is so volatile that we need to be careful of what we get involved in.
I agree with you. We're in a position now where anything that is going to suck the U.S. into some other Middle Eastern war or conflict somewhere, Congressman, I'm very suspect of, because, you hate to say this on the air, but I feel that I've been lied to by my government, or certainly misled on so many occasions. Remember when Obama did the Syrian training and we spent all this money to train these Syrian rebels? Remember that? We spent, like $100 million, and we trained like 8 people, right? Remember that?
I do remember, and you go back to the Iraq War and the Bush. That was a very necessary war, and I think I learned from that there's nothing wrong in taking the information you've been given and then analyze it, and do it in a classified setting if you have to, or do it public if you can. You and I agree on this 100%. And I want to get on something very quickly.
Go ahead.
The chaplain in the House being asked to resign. Are you familiar with that or not?
Yes, but I haven't really covered it, so just explain to our audience what happened.
Well, I am very angry about it. I've been very outspoken, some other members as well, because of a prayer that Father Conroy gave in November. And I hope you will take time after the show and just look up the prayer. It's what they call an opening prayer given by the chaplain. And in that, I'm going to paraphrase, all he said was, with the tax bill, let's make sure everybody is treated fairly. That's in the New Testament. I'm paraphrasing that too, by the way. And Paul Ryan took that prayer and used that to ask the chaplain to resign. I've joined other members of Congress. I'm going to get a letter out today telling Paul Ryan he needs to reconsider that decision. There are options within the House that can be done. But, John, what I said truthfully, if we cannot protect freedom of prayer on the floor of the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., by God, we're in deep trouble.
Why did they take exception to the prayer, which if you're Catholic like me, it's pretty common. Why did they take exception to that?
Paul Ryan has said, I've done several interviews on this in the last couple of days. I think that some of the members in the Republican Party who are evangelicals, and I have many friends, good friends, in my own district who are evangelicals, and I respect their right. But I think some of the evangelicals who are somewhat fearful of Catholics, and I'm a convert, as you know, I don't know. They also got to Ryan. What I said in my letter to Ryan, you represent the whole House, even though you're a Republican. If there's a problem with the chaplain, why don't you email every member of Congress and ask a survey question? The question would be this, John. Are you satisfied with Father Conroy as a spiritual advisor, or are you not satisfied? He never did that. He just said, well, a few people were upset by the prayer, so therefore I'm going to ask him to resign. That's not fair. I would say the same thing if he was a rabbi. I would say the same thing if he was a Protestant.
What specifically did they find objectionable? I guess I'm not getting. Maybe as a Catholic I don't see it, but what is it that evangelicals were upset over?
Well, that's another point that I've been harping on. We are 435 members of the House. If a few, let's say 20, let's say 15, let's say 10, are not happy, well, they shouldn't control the House. Mm-hmm. It should be the Speaker and the majority of members who do like the chaplain. Mm-hmm. I don't know. This thing should never have happened. I'm very disappointed in Paul Ryan. It should never have happened, but he can rectify this by letting the chaplain stay on through the session.
Well, now we've got another member who said that, well, we need to get a chaplain that has a family. Well, that is, unfortunately, Congressman Walter Jones, North Carolina, Republican 3rd District. I mean, that is a biased statement against Catholics, because if you get a Catholic chaplain, that's a priest. They can't get married. That's part of the covenant. They have no children. They're married to God. It is what it is. So when he said that we need to get somebody with a family, then, many of us took that as an anti-Catholic proclamation, right?
Well, I agree with it's Mark Walker from North Carolina. He's a good guy, but I'm going to tell you, I said yesterday in an interview that Mark Walker could certainly, if he would join us in the letter written by Jerry Connolly, Marcy Captain, and myself, join with over 100 members of the House, asking Paul Ryan to give us a full explanation of why he asked the chaplain to resign. It's just something here that I know it's not the same thing as international issues, but again, if we cannot protect freedom of prayer on the floor of the House, then there'll be no protection of religion in America.
Well, let me just tell you this. When Walter Jones, Republican of North Carolina Congressman, and Jerry Connolly can come together on an issue, Democrat, Northern Virginia, two of the most opposite people you'll ever meet, ideologically, politically, personally, exact opposites, except they share one thing, which is we need to find out what happened to our chaplain. That is a good thing. If Connolly and Jones agree on something, you got to really take notice right there. I mean, Jerry Connolly, of all people, you got to take notice. All right, I've only got a couple minutes.
Sure.
Nancy Pelosi, who could become Speaker if you guys lose, I think it's going to be close. The other day, she's at a fundraiser, and the Boston Globe was there, and she said, look, all these people running around, running against Republicans in Trump districts saying, if I win, I'm going to vote against Pelosi. She said, here's the deal. If we take control, I'm going to be the Speaker. I've got the votes. I have the people in my caucus. I will be the next Speaker of the House. If the Democrats get a majority, even if it's by one, I will win. In your campaign in November, do you see Nancy Pelosi becoming Speaker? Do you see that as a campaign issue for Walter Jones?
Well, John, I think that the issue is already out there, but the point is that that is a Democrat issue. I'm not sure they can win the House, but if they do, then that's up for their caucus. And I think what I know from the outside looking in, meaning the Democratic caucus, I think she would be challenged.
And you think she could get toppled?
Well, I don't do the head count in the Democratic caucus. I don't know, but I think that would be a serious challenge. But she's like Paul Ryan. She raises a lot of money, which that's another subject you and I have been on several times. The influence of money in Washington is out of control.
It's beyond that. It's corrupt. It's not. You have to call it what it is. It's corrupt. Right. And when you're there, you see it. And the best thing I do, I get out of there on the weekends, just like you do. You go home on the weekends and you talk to real people, and then you get grounded again. All right,
Absolutely.
Final question. I just got to ask this. You think the Republicans can hold the House?
I think today is 50-50. I think we'll have a better idea about early October if the challenge from the Democrats is real serious. Serious now, but what I'm saying is the circumstances of the world and the nation, I think about September, October, is 50-50 right now.
All right, Walter Jones giving it 50-50. I'm giving the Republicans a 35% chance, so it's a little higher than me. I'm at 1/3 chance. But here's the thing. 3 weeks ago, I gave the Republicans 0 chance. Now they're up to 33% to me. And Walter, who doesn't mince words and doesn't mess around, has got him at 50%. That's good news. I got to roll. Walter Jones, thanks for being with us. Remember that movie Willard and the rats, and they're all scurrying around Washington. Rod Rothenstein, head rat of the Rat Brigade. He is the head rat. He's the head weasel rat of the whole bunch of them. I think, who was it that called Jerry and Ashland? Was that Jerry? I think he's on to something. Hey, we'll be right back.